Born in Charleston and a graduate of Georgetown University, Mayor John Tecklenburg was the founder and president of Southern Oil Company. He was sworn into office in January of this year, but he spent more than 25 years serving this city. Among his varied leadership roles was Charleston's Director of Economic Development, where he led the initiative to revitalize Upper King Street, an effort we'll hear more about later this afternoon. Mayor, we are pleased that you are able to join us today as we kick off 3 days of learning and exploring in Charleston, one of our favorite places to visit. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and welcome to Charleston, everyone. So we're so glad to have you here. And was the cruise of the harbor just great this morning? I know it must have been. Yeah, it's there's a lot to like about Charleston. I think you can readily see. And Jim, you're right in. I'm sorry I don't have my combination right here today, like most Charlestonians normally would. On the weekend, I will. But he's living up a great Charleston tradition with his Socks and Shoes collaboration. Now, Brian was so kind to give me some credit for all the good things we have going on here. But I've only been mayor for about 5 months, but I'm still learning my way around the ropes a little bit. As soon as I got elected last November, former Mayor Riley, he was mayor for 40 years here in Charleston, and many of you may know of him. I kind of like that thought, though. Every 40 years or so, we get a new mayor. He told me, you need to go off to school, and so the U.S. Conference of Mayors was having this kind of seminar up at Harvard, the Kennedy School of Government, and I went up there in December, and I met your mayor. Mayor Gray was up there and gave a presentation to us newbies, and I called him this morning, and he said he's sorry he's not with us yet, but he's going to be joining y'all us on Friday morning, so he'll be down here. He shared both when I met him in December and this morning that lots of great things are happening in your hometown in Lexington, and I know that you as a group and many of you individually are responsible for those good things. He was very gracious to say that some folks compliment Lexington as having some of the charm and character of Charleston, so I'm very appreciative for his graciousness and look forward to seeing him again this coming Friday. Now, it's curious that Jim would offer everyone some Firefly sweet tea. This is a recent product for Charleston, at least the idea came from here, and we do like our sweet tea in Charleston. But it is funny that it's bottled in Kentucky. So I was wondering why y'all would want to drink sweet tea when you got all the good Kentucky bourbon up there, you know. So maybe we ought to have a little trade of that. They asked if I would share a few comments with you about the economy of Charleston, and Brian did a very good job with some highlights of some good things that we have going on in our economy. But just to put things in perspective, if I may, for a minute, you know, it wasn't always that way in Charleston. We were founded in 1670, so we're almost 350 years old as a city. You know, we were founded, of course, as a colony of England, and agriculture ruled the day. Our real early economy and wealth was built on the backs of enslaved Africans who were brought here to this country. It's a critical and important part of our heritage and the story of how this city was built. And if I may share with you for just a second in relation to that, it's a story that often is not fully told in this country. And Charleston plans to build an African American museum. It will be about where you docked when the boat came in near the aquarium. And the site is going to be at a place called Gadsden Wharf. And historically, it is the same site that 80% of the African Americans in this country could trace their lineage to someone who came across that dock. That's what a big business the slave trade was in this city prior to the Civil War. And so it's an important part of our heritage. And by the way, the agriculture was not cotton originally, it was rice. Rice was the product that built the wealth of the Carolina Lowcountry, and it was really the knowledge and the skill of the Africans who came here that knew how to cultivate rice. They had done it in Africa, and they helped bring those skills here. And so that led to our first economy, so to speak, of Charleston and the Lowcountry, and we were one of the wealthiest places in the United States because of it. Then, of course, we had the Civil War, and boy, what a game changer it was for the economy. Of course, it was a game changer in terms of freedom in our country. But to be honest with you, for just about the next 100 years, the economy of this city and this state was lackluster at best. It was said that of the old homes downtown that are now so beautifully renovated, but 100 years ago, that the owners were too poor to paint them and too proud to whitewash, because everybody in this city was broke. There was nothing happening until World War I came along and the Navy base got started, and then with World War II it really cranked up, and so our economy really got off the ground again, because of military spending in Charleston. And so what a loss it was to our economy in 1995 when, because of base realignment, the Navy decided to close our Navy base. And Mayor Riley was mayor at the time. I came to work just about that time as a director of economic development under Mayor Riley. So that's where I got a little experience working in city government. And I guess, don't let me forget to mention as part of the story that beautiful port you saw while you were out on the harbor this afternoon, because besides our agricultural economy to begin with, the reason we were here to start with is because we have the best natural harbor on the eastern United States. And when we get it deep into 52 feet and allow these post-Panamax ships to come, the future of the Port of Charleston as a logistics and port center is just going to be off the chart. But that's the other natural determinant of our economy. So here we are in 2016. Mayor Riley was a really terrific man and mayor of vision. And what he recognized, that we had this incredible heritage and history, this architecture of our downtown area. And we knew that it was a good place for visitors and tourism, but it needed to be coordinated and built upon, and through an incredible effort with the chamber and our convention and visitors bureau and our city government. It's even hard for us, we pinch ourselves a little bit that we've become the number one destination in the country and number 2 or 3 in the world in terms of quality experience now, not quantity. We have over about 5 million visitors per year, and San Francisco and New York and all have more visitors, certainly. But in terms of our visitors' rating of their experience here, of the hospitality, of the food, of the history, of the shopping, of being near the beach, this combination that we have here just leads to a great quality experience and has led to great tourism business that we have. I mentioned the port. I don't think Brian mentioned that we have an incredible medical university and other medical facilities here, and that's a big part of our local economy. The city of Charleston and the medical university, by the way, are combining some real estate in a really serious redevelopment effort on the west side of our city that's going to focus on technology businesses. There's already over $200 million a year in research, medical research that's being done at our medical university, and we're going to privatize as much of that as we can. Fourthly, as Brian also mentioned, even though we lost the Navy base, between Joint Base Charleston and a little known governmental agency called SPAWAR, we have a significant government presence still in the Charleston region. SPAWAR is the stepchild of the original Naval Electronics Division, and so they do technology for our military, and they brought a ton of engineering and technology software businesses to Charleston, and which has also been a springboard for Charleston becoming what we like to call the Silicon Harbor. We're one of the top 10 cities in America now for emerging technology business and knowledge-based business, and I'm sure you share, the desire to build that kind of business in your city as well. But the thing that Mayor Riley worked on so beautifully was to build this sense of place, this brand that we call Charleston. And it got down to thinking about the very details of, what our parks look like. If you see our waterfront park, maybe you rode by it, but I hope you'll go by there while you're here over the next few days. I mean, it's literally one of the most beautiful public spaces in America, and we try to apply that same sense of quality and excellence to everything that we do, be it a public park or civic building, and we encourage it. We somewhat insist upon it, upon private development with the Board of Architectural Review and other, city functions that we have in place that define development in our city. By the way, Charleston has the oldest preservation ordinance in the country. It was started back in the 1920s, and it was on the tail end of that period I was telling you about where we were so broke. And in many other cities, maybe they would have torn down some of these buildings and built skyscrapers, but we didn't have the capital here. We were too broke. And so some very thoughtful citizens realized that, we've got these old buildings here. We really ought to preserve them, and that led to the oldest preservation ordinance in the United States of America, and it's preserved this area. If you hadn't been down there, I'm sure you will. Below Calhoun Street really is the heart of our historic district, and below Broad particularly, where we put our utilities underground. Other than seeing a car on the street, I mean, just walking down the street, you could think that you're in the late 1700s or early 1800s. And we're not a theme park, though. It's a living, vibrant city, a residential city, immersed in commercial activity and retail and all like that. So, we have those quality of life issues that we deal with. Speaking of the retail, you'll go to Upper King Street, I'm sure. When I worked for Mayor Riley, one of my big tasks was just, it sounds simple, but just the streetscape improvements that we were able to put into place for our main shopping street just made an incredible difference. Charleston was similar to many cities around the country. King Street, our main street, was dying on the vine. Folks were moving to the suburbs. The big malls and the stores were all drawing shoppers away from the center city. And it's still hard for me to believe, having been born and grown up here, the difference that you see if you had come here 40 or 50 years ago. It's just incredible. But what Mayor Riley realized is this sense of place, and it applied even to the streetscape and the sidewalks and the street lights, and having this environment that was inviting and that attracted people, along with making our city safe, which was a public safety matter and all like that. So we have a great story to tell now, great success. We're going to work to continue that. We do have challenges, like I'm sure you do in Lexington. The big ones here are housing. As we become so successful, it's become very expensive, particularly on the peninsula. Real estate pricing is out of the roof, and our, so to speak, everyday workers can't afford to live in the city anymore unless they have some public housing or affordable housing support. So that's a big challenge on our community, which has driven some sprawl to occur because people go further and further out to be able to find a place to live that they can afford, which has led to more travel miles being driven. And hence the next big challenge that we have, and I'm sure you share, is infrastructure. Because we've grown and grown. Brian mentioned we have 48 people come in every single day, and building these bridges over these rivers and harbors is an extremely expensive thing. We just haven't been able to keep up with infrastructure. We're limited by what our state legislature allows. The city has no direct funding source for building roads and bridges, so it's a complicated matter, but we're working on it. And the third piece is our public education system, and you'll hear from our superintendent. We have some real challenges there. We've got a shining star with our technical education system that was founded by Governor Hollings about 50 years ago, and you'll hear from Mary Thornley, and she is terrific. And the interconnectedness between that level of our education system and our manufacturing really works. And when I was talking about our economy, I did leave out one thing. It's still hard for me to believe here today that we're a manufacturing center again. 25 years ago, 30 now, that the Navy base went away, it was really the core of our quote manufacturing, heavy industrial kind of business in Charleston, and we just thought it was gone. And now we have Boeing, now we have Mercedes doing a full-blown assembly plant. We have Volvo under construction with a full-blown assembly plant, along with Bosch and Cummins and other manufacturers. So I'm proud to say we have that, and you got to thank the Port of Charleston, I think, mostly for that. It's what has attracted industry. So I'm also going to close chatting with you a minute about Mother Emanuel. I still get choked up even thinking about it. I got choked up when Brian was talking about it a minute ago. It has had a profound impact on this community, what happened nearly a year ago, and I guess we're thinking about it a little more today because we have all these events being planned in our community starting next week as commemoration to this terrible racist tragedy that occurred here almost a year ago, and it's so sad. I'm 60 years old and grew up here in South Carolina and certainly saw firsthand and experienced racism when I was growing up, and I felt that over the decades that our country and our community certainly has made progress in terms of race relations and civil rights and all like that. And for, an event like that to happen in 2015, that a 21-year-old kid could be so immersed in racism that he would come to an African-American church with the intent to start a race war. I mean, that was his stated purpose in killing those people after staying with them for an hour during Bible study in the basement of the church. I mean, it just really shakes your faith a little bit in where we are as a human race, that kind of thing exists. And the beautiful, aftermath of the families showing such compassion and such love is a real tribute to their faith in God and their belief, and that was a big reason why this community came together in a show of unity like I don't think, I don't know where else that's occurred. Of course, we all rise to the occasion for our community, in tough times, but it was really a remarkable thing last year when there were tens of thousands of people on this bridge from one side of the harbor to the other, just spontaneously, 2 nights after the killings, holding hands and, promoting such an incredible sense of unity and love in our community. And so that is really, that was really a beautiful thing. But my takeaway, and I think the takeaway of Charleston is that it's great to show that unity, to be compassionate, but you got to ask the question, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do in this country and this world to promote relationships where people understand and get along with each other and get past this human ages-old, trap of racism and discrimination. And so I feel in my city, and my charge as mayor is to look at every aspect of our government, from community policing. Are we being fair in the way we're applying and enforcing the laws of our community, in our housing, in even this affordable housing conundrum that I mentioned to you a few minutes ago, in our education system. And I can tell you, frankly, that we are not there in Charleston County in terms of resolving inequities in our schools and in performance. We got a long way to go there. And so I think we showed the world an example of how people can come together. We want to now continue on and try to show the world an example that we are willing to step up to the plate and work on issues of inequity, issues of racism, issues to build the trust and relationships among people in our community, and hopefully an example to other folks in the world that that love is stronger than hate. That's what this community proved a year ago, but we want to also show it in our actions and what we do going forward. So you're going to go to the church Friday, and I hope some of that will resonate with you. I thank you for coming to Charleston. I hope you have a great time here. I look forward to seeing you again briefly on Friday and reconnecting with Mayor Gray, and hope you all have a great stay here in Charleston. God bless you. Thank you very much. And I'll keep one of these.